Right now, in the heart of Dubai, a hyper-luxury residential skyscraper worth over $1.2 billion is doing something it was never designed to do. It is sinking into the sand. While multimillionaires sip champagne on the 80th floor, the foundational pilings below them are quietly shifting. The people managing this megastructure are monitoring digital readouts in real time, watching microscopic movements that spell absolute catastrophe. In 2024, a structural shift occurred during a record heat wave that left a critical weight-bearing column with a tolerance margin of just 0.8 inches. This single tower houses over 3,000 residents and sits directly above a major subterranean transit artery used by 50,000 people every single day. Engineers have a terrifying name for it: a progressive collapse hazard. If one major structural node fails, the entire column of concrete and glass pancake down. This is the Al Miraj Legacy Tower, and the world has no idea it is teetering on the edge. Located right on the premium waterfront of the Dubai Marina, it stands as a 100-foot monument to human ambition. When it was completed, it wasn't a warning. It was a global marvel. It boasted the highest residential infinity pool in the world, a triumph of ultra-luxury engineering designed by elite international firms and built by the region's top contractors. It was the crown jewel of the Marina skyline, an architectural masterpiece stitching this desert sky to the Persian Gulf. But the original sin of this billionaire playground isn't in the luxury marble, the golden trim. It is buried deep in the reclaimed land beneath its base. When the Marina Basin was excavated, cost and speed dictated the foundation design. Instead of drilling all the way down to deep, solid bedrock, builders relied on friction pilings anchored in compacted sand and marine silt. The tower's heaviest support column sits directly adjacent to a subterranean saltwater channel. The shield wall is completely unprotected. Every calculation about this tower's survival begins from that one fatal choice. The compromised foundation was only the first mistake. In the 2 decades following Dubai's massive construction boom, an environmental shift occurred that the original 1990s structural models never accounted for. The climate changed, and the buildings grew massively heavier. When the Al Miraj Legacy Tower was conceptualized, neighboring structures were modest low-rises. Today, it's hemmed in by a dense wall of ultra-tall skyscrapers, creating immense localized pressure on the fragile, waterlogged soil below. The engineering timeline reveals a ticking clock that officials chose to ignore. 208. The tower breaks ground during a global financial rush. Geotechnical surveys note high saltwater intrusion in the upper sand layers, but construction presses forward. 20112. The tower opens to international investors. Within months, internal maintenance logs register microfissures in the lowest basement level. 2018. A municipal audit flags unprecedented ground subsidence around the marina's edge, noting that the reclaimed land is settling faster than predicted. 2021. Independent structural engineers issue a classified report warning that intense summer heat waves are causing extreme thermal expansion. The glass and steel facade is expanding outward, putting immense asymmetric torque on the shifting foundation. That extreme heat is where physics fights engineering. In Dubai's summer, surface temperatures on the tower's glass skin regularly exceed 60 degrees Celsius. The steel frame expands, bowing outward, while the subterranean basements remain chilled by industrial AC units. This massive temperature differential creates a structural tug-of-war. The tower sags and tilts. During peak heat, the topmost floors sway up to 3 feet off-center, not from wind, but from thermal warping. This warping forces the entire 500,000-ton mass of the building to press down unevenly onto a single, naked support pier near the saltwater channel. Worse, the tower lacks automated hydrostatic pressure sensors in its lowest foundations. The engineering team is forced to manually calculate structural load adjustments based on tidal changes from the Persian Gulf and daily temperature spikes. That is 365 days a year of manual guesswork, with multi-million-dollar penthouses hanging in the balance. The warnings were documented, archived, and left to gather dust in corporate boardroom files. This is not an isolated incident. To understand the structural threat facing the Al Miraj Legacy Tower, you have to look across the global real estate market to another infamous engineering disaster, San Francisco's Millennium Tower. In California, a luxury residential skyscraper began tilting and sinking into soft mud, requiring a massive $100 million plus emergency underpinning fix to tie the building to solid bedrock. But here is the fact that should chill you. Dubai's luxury tower faces a crisis that is infinitely worse. The Millennium Tower sank into an inland clay bed. The Al Miraj Tower is anchored in artificial sand right next to an active pressurized saltwater canal. Independent marine engineering data shows that subterranean saltwater leaks occur in the basement levels of reclamation zone skyscrapers in the city roughly twice a month. Not twice a decade. Twice every single month, year after year. Most of the time, high-powered industrial pumps handle the inflow, cracks are hastily sealed with chemical grout, and the ultra-wealthy residents living upstairs never suspect a thing. But in 2024, a catastrophic failure at a nearby commercial development exposed the ultimate worst-case scenario. When a basement retaining wall ruptured under hydrostatic pressure, thousands of tons of liquefied sand liquefied instantly, undermining the foundation of an entire complex in seconds. If a similar blowout happens beneath the Al Miraj Tower, the emergency protocol is harrowing. Maintenance engineers admit that there is no structural system built into the tower to stop a sudden asymmetric sinkhole. If the soil liquefies on the canal side, the building's heavy core will automatically tilt toward the water. A 2025 regional safety assessment classified the Al Miraj Tower and its immediate neighbor in Business Bay as the only two ultra-luxury structures built on reclaimed waterfront land that carry an unquantifiable risk of progressive structural failure due to unmitigated soil degradation. The structural buffer is practically non-existent. A Wall Street Journal investigation into high-density coastal engineering named this specific marina sector as one of the most vulnerable skyscraper clusters on Earth, pointing out that unlike modern offshore projects, these early 2010s towers have zero secondary pile protection jackets. The safety net is entirely artificial. Behind the gleaming glass facade and the multi-million-dollar price tags are the people trapped in the center of this silent crisis. Over 3,000 residents call the Al Miraj Legacy Tower home, completely unaware of the terrifying margins beneath their feet. Among them are international tech executives, British hedge fund managers, and families like the Al Mansouris, who purchased their dream penthouse on the 72nd floor for $8.5 million. To them, the building represents safety and unmatched prestige. To the maintenance team working in the subterranean basements, it represents a daily battle against physics. The reality inside the tower is masked by intense luxury. While residents work out in high-tech gyms or dine at the exclusive lounge on the 50th floor, specialized structural teams quietly patch hairline fractures in the loading bays below. During a localized elevator maintenance shutdown last year, the structural distortion became impossible to hide for those in the know. The building's thermal twist had subtly warped an elevator shaft on the building's eastern face. Engineers had to work through the night to realign the tracks, knowing that a structural tilt of just a fraction of a degree more would permanently lock the high-speed cabs in place. The economic stakes are staggering. The tower serves as a vital financial hub, anchoring a dense network of high-end retail, Michelin-starred restaurants, and corporate offices. A major structural disruption here would paralyze a core section of the marina, causing a ripple effect across the entire local real estate market. During a minor basement flooding incident a few years ago, the basement access road was temporarily closed. The logistics chain broke down so quickly that an international investment firm renting the top 3 floors had to book luxury shuttle boats just to ferry its executives across the Marina Canal to their offices. The engineers tasked with monitoring the tower live with a quiet, constant anxiety. One senior structural consultant, speaking under strict anonymity, admitted that the team frequently runs simulation models on what would happen if the canal-side friction pilings drop even another half-inch. You don't sleep well when you know the building is doing advanced calculus against a shifting sandbed every single afternoon, he confessed. But the absolute peak of the danger was exposed during an inspection. Investigators analyzing the building's historical maintenance logs discovered that multiple renovation projects on the upper levels had vastly exceeded their permitted weight limits. Rich owners had installed massive custom marble floors, indoor water features, and reinforced private safes without proper structural recalculations. The tower's actual dead weight was hundreds of tons heavier than the figures the engineers were using for their manual stabilization math. The pilots of this skyscraper were steering a giant through a storm, using data that was fundamentally wrong. Right now, the future of the Al Miraj Legacy Tower sits deadlocked in corporate boardrooms and municipal planning offices. This is a crisis unfolding in real time, week by week, and the margin for error is shrinking. There is a plan on the table to address the danger. A joint task force of international structural specialists and local engineering authorities is currently evaluating a massive, multi-million-dollar engineering intervention, a complex underpinning project to inject high-density polymer resins directly into the shifting sand bed, attempting to artificially solidify the land around the exposed eastern foundation pier. Funding for the initial phase was narrowly approved in the latest infrastructure budget cycle. Local developers have tentatively set aside millions for advanced geotechnical monitoring arrays, the very sensors that would finally take the dangerous guesswork out of the building's daily thermal expansion foundation tracking. But here is the question that no one can answer. And the structural investigators couldn't get one either. Not a single official will commit to a binding timeline. The engineering blueprints are ready, but municipal agencies will not say when the permits will be finalized. The funding survived this budget cycle, but the high-pressure grout pumps have yet to arrive at the marina. So, the real question hangs over every single apartment, luxury office, and high-speed elevator ride in that tower. Will the structural fix arrive before the worst-case afternoon does? The warnings date back over a decade. The initial subsidence reports were shelved. The tower is now navigating a climate of unprecedented summer heat, and the regional risk assessments state plainly that a permanent engineering solution cannot be delayed. Yet, a total foundation overhaul remains a distant conversation. The timelines remain completely blank. And right now, as you read this, a structural engineer is standing in a concrete basement beneath the Dubai Marina, reading a digital gauge and calculating the shifting